Ioann Ivanovich Korepin was born on the 1st of January 1890 in the village of Kotelnoye of Nikolsk County, Vologda province, to the family of peasant Ivan Vasiliev and his wife Praskovia Andreevna. It is known that Ivan finished a village school, while, according to the materials of the archive investigation case, he also had spiritual education. Until 1914, Ioann Korepin worked in a synodic printing house and had no exact place of living, traveling across the country and distributing religious books all around Russia. From 1914 to 1919, Ioann Ivanovich lived in the village of Vorontsova Alexandrovskaya of Stavropol province, and together with a peasant had a farm and made pots. Those years, Ioann Ivanovich married maiden Yevdokia Ivanovna. In 1919, in the Caucasus area, Ioann Korepin organized an agricultural artel primer, being its chairman for 2 years. He organized the work in the artel like in a religious community. In 1921, he left the artel because local authorities considered it as a religious community, starting to set up new arrangements that were alien to his religious beliefs. For example, they offered to sing international where the existence of God was denied. Ioann Ivanovich Korepin with his wife moved to Moscow. Ioann Korepin began his confessional cross-bearing during post-revolutionary times of trouble, widespread persecutions of the Orthodox Church and faith, the decay of religious traditions as well as church stratification. According to his own words, in 1921-1922, Ioann Ivanovich Korepin was prepared for the priesthood by Archpriest Kedrov. Those years Ioann Ivanovich served as a psalmist at the Church of the Resurrection of Christ in Sokolniki in Moscow. On the 20th of April 1922, by Patriarch Tikhon, Ioann Korepin was ordained a deacon to the Church of the Resurrection of Christ in Sokolniki. Already on the 17th of June the same year, at the Cathedral of Holy Wisdom in the town of Novgorod, Deacon Ioann was ordained a priest by Bishop Seraphim. There, Father Ioann served for about a year. According to the clergy register of 1924, from the 10th of March to the 13th of August 1923, priest Ioann Korepin was with no place of service. In August 1923, Father Ioann was appointed to the Resurrection Church as a supernumerary priest, replacing their future Holy Martyr Nil Smirnov. When the prior of the Church of the Intercession of Virgin Mary of the Kremichesky churchyard, priest Fyodor Voznesensky, had serious arguments with the faithful, Father Nil Smirnov, who served at a nearby village of Kartino, recommended the parishioners priest Ioann Korepin. On the 28th of April 1924, being asked by the faithful, the priest of the Moscow Resurrection Church in Sokolniki, Ioann Korepin, served divine liturgy at the Intercession Church, preaching during it. The zealous service of Father Ioann, as well as his delectable life words, made the most pleasant impression on the local faithful. Already on the following day, the church council sent a petition to Boris, the bishop of Mozhaisk, asking him to bless Father Ioann to serve the Church of God at the Intercession Church. It was written about priest Ioann. Only such priests, by their service and pastoral talks, are able to satisfy spiritual needs of the faithful, especially of our parish, that suffered greatly during the time of priest of the Life Church. On the 19th of May 1924, the priest was awarded with both a waistcloth and a violet kuffia, while on the following day, by the resolution of Bishop Boris, Father Ioann was appointed to the Church of the Intercession of Virgin Mary of Kremichesky churchyard. Here, the priest served for the next 7 years. According to his own words, Father Ioann Korepin was highly respected by the population of the nearby villages, being considered as a populist because he helped the poor. After one such occasion, some people said about the priest, "This is the true communist." During the interrogation, Father Ioann said, "Poor female peasant Pelageya Krylova had not believed in God and had not liked clergymen before she met me. Then she began to believe in God and consider me as a populist. Peasants come to my place as I invite them, while my wife treats them well. One day 2 shepherds passed me, saying about me, "This is a good priest, there is no reason to exile him to Solovki." However, in the end of February 1931, somebody denounced the priest. In the reference of the Morva village council, it was mentioned that citizen Korepin, being the priest of the intercession church, systematically agitates against all the events of the Soviet authorities among peasants, especially women. In February 1931, he organized an illegal meeting where anti-Soviet issues were discussed. 400 farmers of the nearby villages took part in that meeting. During his sermons, he agitated against entering the kolkhoz. In general, Korepin Ivan Ivanovich has anti-Soviet point of view. On the 10th of March 1931, priest Ioann Korepin was arrested by the OGPU for anti-Soviet activity, being imprisoned in the town of Ruza. At the moment of the arrest, his family consisted of his wife Yevdokia Ivanovna and 5 children from the age of 3 months old to the age of 6 years old. Also, Father Ivan pointed out that a cousin of his wife, Yelena Akimovna Kompaneytseva, aged 27, lived with them working for food and clothes. In the column of property, it was written that the priest had 1 cow, 2,700 square meters of land, and 5 beehives. According to the reference from the village council of Moriva, the priest also had a house with a yard. In the materials of the case it was mentioned. In the nearby villages of Kremichesky churchyard, the meetings dedicated to political and agricultural issues were disrupted. The reason was the systematic anti-Soviet activity of Pope Korepin. Meanwhile, to win respect of the poor, Korepin helped them around the household. Witnesses testified. Priest Korepin is highly respected among the population, especially among women. In his sermons he says, "Soon the authorities will be changed, it will be easier to live, but we need not to forget God." Among peasants, Pope Korepin distributes anti-Soviet literature "Does Christ Exist?", where grain reserves in the Ukraine are described. During his sermons, Korepin preaches pretending if he had dreams like the revelation from heavens. Thanks to that, he is considered like a prophet. During the interrogation, Father Ioann testified, "I feel sorry for the collectivization, but only for the free will one. On this point I preached at the church, for example in spring 1930. You, citizens, entered the kolkhoz. This does not contradict the gospel, but no finger must be raised to close a church." Then I read the 2nd and the 4th chapter of the Acts of Apostles. I also had to speak about collectivization with peasants in private talks. It was in the same way as in the sermons, I mean from the point of view of religious and social life. Answering the question about the book "Does Christ Exist?", Priest Ioann Korepin said, "I did not have the book "Does Christ Exist?", but wanted to find it very much. Indeed, I talked with some peasants about this book." Father Ioann did not plead guilty in the anti-Soviet agitation among the population. On the 27th of March 1931, the case was sent to the OGPU Troika to review. Priest Ioann Korepin was accused of systematic anti-Soviet agitation against all events of the Soviet authorities, of using faithful women for anti-Soviet agitation and vilification of the events of the Soviet authorities, as well as distributing anti-Soviet literature and preaching in the anti-Soviet way from the church ambo. This way the Pope disrupts political and agricultural campaigns. According to the materials of the group case of Abbess Tamara Likharova, the priest had a close connection with nun Alexandra Mikhaeva, who also was arrested and repressed later. On the 1st of April the same year, according to the 58th article paragraph 10 of the Criminal Code of Russia, by the OGPU Troika of Moscow region, the clergyman was sentenced to 5 years on concentration camps. When the term of his imprisonment ended, Father Ivan was forbidden to live in big cities and had to move to the town of Glazov of Udmurtia Republic, where at first he worked as a watch at the Cathedral of the Transfiguration of Christ. during mass persecution of the Orthodoxy. On the 18th of December 1937, the clergyman and his wife Evdokia Ivanovna were arrested by the NKVD. The interrogation was rather short. Already on the 27th of December, priest Ioann Korepin was sentenced to 10 years of labor camps, while mother Evdokia to 8. The further fate of priest Ioann Korepin and his wife is unknown.